Hey, welcome to 1500ESPN.com. I'm Derek Wetmore. This is Andrew Kramer. We're recording this video after Vikings practice Wednesday. A couple of things to get to on this video before we jump over and do the Purple Podcast. 5 players missed practice for the Vikings today. Kind of an alarming number. We'll talk about the significance of that. Teddy Bridgewater was sacked 8 times the last time the Vikings played the Detroit Lions. We'll talk about how that might be different this time around. And finally, Detroit's kind of in that playoff picture right now. They're one of the wildcard teams in the NFL.
Wait, it's December and they're still...
Believe it or not, the Detroit Lions are part of the playoff picture. The Vikings will hope to play spoiler, but we'll talk about the implications there. Andrew, the first and, in my opinion, the most important thing heading into this week is the team's injury report. 5 guys missed practice today. What can you tell me about the status of their health?
Yeah, that's 5 starters. Really 4 starters because they don't use fullback Jerome Felton too much, but Felton popped up on the injury report with a neck injury. He sat out. They're also missing linebacker Anthony Barr, safety Robert Blanton, defensive tackle Sharif Floyd, and guard Charlie Johnson. All 4 of those guys, their status is really uncertain for Sunday. Sharif Floyd is still dealing with that nagging knee injury, and they're not really sure what they're going to do about it. They might sit him and just try to get it healthy, or he might play a limited role again. And against the Detroit Lions team that now has Reggie Bush back and Calvin Johnson back. Remember, both did not play in these teams' first meeting on October 12th. They're going to need as much defensive help as they can get. And now you're without Robert Blanton still, so Andrew Sendejo took the first-team reps in practice. And then without Charlie Johnson, Vlad Dukas had to take the first-team reps at left guard. So now you're playing with 3 replacements along that offensive line, going up against one of the best fronts in football in the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, Gerald Hodges said that he's been taking some first-team reps at linebacker. Does that possibly a sign that Anthony Barr might miss another week?
That's just a factor that Anthony Barr is not practicing yet, so obviously Gerald's going to get those first-team reps. If Anthony can come back on Thursday or even on a limited session on Friday, they might be able to put him back in there. However, with a rookie dealing with this kind of nagging knee injury, remember, he hurt that knee in, I believe it was the November 16th loss in Chicago, and he tried to play through that through a couple games, wasn't as effective, and so they might try to sit him too just to heal him up. We'll see.
Yeah, you mentioned the starters kind of cycling along the offensive line. The Vikings will be without 3 opening day starters, the only 2 that are still healthy, John Sullivan, Matt Khalil. 8 sacks the first time they played the Lions, which I know is a product of the protection a little bit, but you were telling me a little bit earlier too, some of that has to do with Teddy Bridgewater. How can he change how he played against the Lions?
It really does. After that 2-game stretch in October where he took 14 sacks, and that was against Detroit in his second start and Buffalo in his third start, I sat down with quarterbacks coach Scott Turner, and they said what they were really trying to get through his head was it's not necessarily making a quicker drop back or his mechanics and throwing the ball. It's making quicker decisions in his head and not thinking through the read progressions as much. Well, in these last 4 weeks, he's really shown that. He only took 3 sacks on Sunday against the New York Jets, even though they pressured him on over half of his dropbacks. The pressure was there. They were getting to him, but he was making plays with his feet. And obviously, you're not going to have the protection you want when you're playing with that many backups along the offensive line. This team has really been snake-bitten when it comes to injuries. And now in late December, everybody's playing hurt, even the guys that aren't on the injury report. So Bridgewater's ability to keep plays alive with his feet will be at a premium on Sunday, especially going up against Ndamukong Suh and Nick Fairley and Ezekiel Ansah, who had 2.5 sacks on Matt Khalil in the first matchup.
Yeah, and with that defensive front 4 of Detroit, I mean, imagine that's kind of the thing that you're facing. Even though their defense as a whole is better than it has been in recent years, I mean, that's got to be the daunting unit on that defense.
Well, really, all units get better because of one unit being great. I mean, the Vikings see it themselves with their defensive line. When their defensive line can get pressure, that secondary looks a lot better. That's the same thing that's going on in Detroit right now. Because those guys are playing so well up front, it makes the linebackers and the secondary look that much better. And if Bridgewater's limited to throwing those 10-yard passes and can't stretch the field, it just makes it easier for linebackers and corners to jump the short routes. But Detroit overall has gotten better. They have 17 interceptions on the season. That is the second most in the NFL. They are taking the ball away from offenses right now. And even though their offense hasn't been clicking on all cylinders with injuries to Bush and Calvin Johnson, they've been able to win on the back of their defense. And if the Vikings can put up enough points, they might be able to get it done.
Sure. Detroit has been winning this season, though, as have the Green Bay Packers. So the division is a little top-heavy with those 2 teams. How does Detroit's playoff implications, how does that affect this weekend?
Well, at 9-4, they're at an unusual spot because if you remember last year, they were they surged, I believe, through October and were in the NFC North lead when Aaron Rodgers got hurt with his broken collarbone. and they ended up crapping out and not making the playoffs.
They Detroit Lions?
They basically, and this is a situation now where that's not happening to them. They're at 9-4 in December, which again is a situation they're not very used to. So they got 3 games remaining, finishing up in Lambeau. They need this game more than anything because it's a game they should win and a game they cannot afford to lose.
Absolutely. We'll talk about that, the playoff picture, Teddy Bridgewater, the injuries on the defense, all kinds of stuff on this week's episode of the Purple Podcast. Be sure to check that out on the show page if you just go up to at the top of 1500ESPN.com, shows drag down, Purple Podcast. Andrew and I are about to share, I don't know how long this podcast will be. Usually they're about half hour. We'll share our thoughts on the Vikings, break it all down, and preview the Detroit Lions and Minnesota Vikings. That'll do it for this Vikings video, though. For Andrew Kramer, I'm Derek Wetmore. Thanks for coming to the website, and we'll catch you next time.